3 hours ago, I found a letter in my own handwriting that I don't remember writing. It was hidden inside a picture frame in my apartment, a frame I've walked past every day for 3 years. The letter was addressed to whoever I become, and it started with 5 words that destroyed everything. Elena is not my sister. My name is Sarah Chen, or so I was told, but I just discovered that everything I believe about my life, my identity, my memories, even the woman who's been caring for me for 3 years, it's all a carefully constructed lie. And they're coming for me now. You're about to hear how someone can steal your entire existence and make you grateful for it. 3 years ago, I woke up in a hospital with no memory, car accident, amnesia. My sister Elena filled in the blanks. She showed me my apartment, my job, my whole life, packaged neat and perfect. But something felt wrong. The furniture was too expensive, too coordinated, like a movie set designed to convince someone they were living a real life. The clothes fit perfectly. The kitchen was spotless, everything organized with military precision. I ignored that feeling. The doctor said confusion was normal after trauma. But I couldn't shake it. This life felt borrowed. Elena would watch me constantly, not like a concerned sister, like someone monitoring an experiment. She'd ask careful questions. How are you feeling today? Any strange dreams? Any memories trying to surface? And every night she'd give me vitamins, 3 small white pills that made me drowsy and foggy. For your recovery, she'd say, the doctors insisted. But I never remembered any doctors mentioning vitamins. 6 months ago, something changed. Elena went out of town for a business trip. First time she'd left me alone overnight since the accident. That night I had the most vivid dream of my life. I was in a small apartment near the University of Washington, cluttered with art books and restoration tools. A black cat named Picasso curled on my windowsill. I was working on a painting, a Caravaggio piece called The Weeping Saint. My hands moved with practiced expertise, analyzing brushstrokes, testing pigments. But in the dream, I wasn't Sarah Chen. I was someone else, someone confident, someone who spoke French and understood art history and had spent years learning to detect forgeries. I woke up crying, though I couldn't say why. The next morning, Elena returned with gifts and that gentle smile. But when I mentioned the dream, her face went blank for just a second. Dreams aren't memories, sweetheart. Sometimes trauma creates false experiences that feel real. She increased my vitamins to 4 pills that night. 3 months later, I was at the grocery store when someone called out, "Maya! Maya Delacroix!" I turned around automatically. Elderly woman, tears in her eyes, grabbing my hands. "Où étais-tu? Nous étions si inquiets. Where have you been? We were so worried." She spoke French. I understood perfectly, even though Elena never mentioned I spoke French. The woman, Madame Rousseau, insisted I was her former student, art restoration at the University of Washington. She described my apartment, my research on Renaissance forgery techniques, even my cat named Picasso. I tried to explain she was mistaken, but the words came out in perfect French anyway. "Your accent," she said, confused. "Before you spoke like a Parisian, now you sound American." I ran, left my cart, drove home shaking. Elena was waiting with tea and that gentle smile. "You're remembering wrong," she said. "Sometimes damaged minds create stories to fill gaps." That night, she gave me 6 pills instead of 4. Last week, everything changed. I was cleaning Elena's study while she was at work, something I'd never done before because she always kept it locked, but she'd forgotten to lock it that morning. Inside, I found files, documents, research, all about art forgery, authentication techniques, museum security systems, and in the center of her desk, a folder labeled M. Delacroix Project Complete. Inside was my life, my real life. Maya Delacroix, graduate student in art restoration at the University of Washington, brilliant researcher who specialized in detecting Renaissance forgeries, published papers on Caravaggio authentication methods. In October 2021, Maya had been commissioned to authenticate a piece called The Weeping Saint. She'd discovered something that threatened a massive forgery operation. October 2021. The same month, Sarah Chen woke up with no memory. At the bottom of the file was a photo, Maya Delacroix standing in her cluttered apartment, holding a black cat. It was my face, but confident, alert, alive in a way Sarah Chen had never been. I kept reading. Maya hadn't just discovered Elena was selling forgeries. She'd uncovered an international art trafficking ring. Elena was systematically replacing genuine masterpieces in major museums with expert fakes, selling the originals to private collectors. But Maya had made one crucial mistake. She'd trusted Elena Vasquez, a supposed art dealer who'd hired her for the authentication work. Elena Vasquez, not Elena Chen. The woman I'd been living with wasn't my sister. She was the criminal Maya had been investigating. More files revealed the truth. Elena had drugged Maya during their final meeting, used experimental memory suppression techniques developed by a disgraced neurologist. But Elena couldn't just erase Maya completely. The knowledge was too valuable, so she'd created a compliant version instead, someone who retained the technical skills but lost the dangerous curiosity. Sarah Chen, the perfect cover story. Elena could keep Maya's expertise while eliminating Maya's threat. And if anyone came looking for Maya Delacroix, they'd find only a confused woman with amnesia who couldn't remember her own name. It was elegant, diabolical, and it had worked perfectly for 3 years. But Maya had been smarter than Elena realized. Hidden in the files was evidence Maya had prepared before her disappearance. She'd suspected Elena was dangerous and had set up contingencies. The picture frame in my apartment, the one containing the letter I'd found that morning, had been Maya's insurance policy, a message triggered to surface only if her memory began returning naturally. Because memory suppression isn't permanent, it requires constant chemical maintenance. And Elena had been getting careless with my dosage. The letter explained everything. Maya had suspected Elena would try to suppress her memory rather than kill her outright, so she'd left breadcrumbs, clues that would only make sense to her future self if the suppression ever began wearing off. The dreams about Picasso, the automatic response to French, the growing sense that nothing felt right. That wasn't trauma, that was Maya fighting her way back to the surface. The letter also contained instructions, contact information for Dr. Sarah Hoffman at the Smithsonian, who specialized in Nazi-looted art recovery. Hidden bank accounts Elena didn't know about, even a safe house in Montreal. But most importantly, it contained the real reason Elena had targeted Maya. The Caravaggio piece Maya had been authenticating wasn't just another forgery. Hidden in the brushstrokes was a coded map leading to artwork stolen by Nazis during World War II. Elena's operation wasn't just about money. She was erasing historical evidence, preventing the recovery of cultural heritage stolen from Jewish families. Maya had been close to cracking the code when Elena struck. But Maya had documented everything, hidden copies of her research in safety deposit boxes across 3 cities. She'd even recorded her final conversation with Elena, where Elena had revealed details about the Nazi art connection. I found myself staring at a woman I'd never met, but who felt more familiar than my own reflection. Maya Delacroix, the person I'd been before someone tried to erase me. Now I had to decide what to do about it. I could go to the police, but Elena had been careful. The identity she'd constructed for Sarah Chen was legally bulletproof. Or I could be smarter. The letter contained Maya's final plan, a way to use Elena's own methods against her. I started pretending to take the memory suppressants, flushing them down the toilet instead. As the chemicals left my system, more memories returned. Not just about my professional life, personal memories, who I'd been as a person. I remembered growing up in Montreal with parents who'd immigrated from France, learning 4 languages around the dinner table, falling in love with art restoration after visiting the Louvre. I remembered my real apartment, small, cluttered, with terrible water pressure but amazing natural light. I remembered Picasso, my black cat, who Elena had probably sent to a shelter when she cleaned out Maya's life. But I also started playing a dangerous game. I became the perfect audience for Elena's ego, started asking innocent questions about art authentication, expressing interest in her work. Elena, believing she was educating her harmless sister, began revealing details about the forgery operation. Every conversation was recorded on my phone. Elena describing how she'd replaced the Rothko at the Seattle Art Museum, how she'd bribed authentication experts, how she'd laundered money through shell galleries. She was proud of her work. Pride made her careless. After a week of recordings, I called Dr. Hoffman using the number from Maya's letter. "Maya, my God, we thought you were dead." I told her everything, the memory suppression, the false identity, Elena's operation. Dr. Hoffman listened in stunned silence. "We have to move fast," she said. "If Elena realizes you've recovered, she'll disappear. These people have resources, safe houses, new identities already prepared." Then she told me something that made my blood freeze. 6 months ago, we identified 3 other victims, art experts who'd gotten too close to Elena's operation. All supposedly died in accidents or developed sudden dementia. But we found them, Maya, hidden under false identities just like you. 3 other people, 3 other stolen lives. Elena wasn't just a forger, she was a serial identity thief. Dr. Hoffman and I coordinated a plan that would have made Maya proud. I would tell Elena that Sarah was having breakthrough memories about art techniques. I'd sketch pieces from Elena's operation, details only Maya would know. Elena's ego wouldn't let her resist examining Sarah's work, looking for signs that Maya's knowledge was surfacing. When she did, she'd be walking into a trap. But first, I had to survive 1 more week as Sarah Chen. It was the longest week of my life. Every meal with Elena felt like dining with my kidnapper. Every concerned question about my health was a reminder she'd been poisoning me for 3 years. Every gentle touch was mockery of the trust she'd destroyed. But I held on to Maya's strength, used her expertise to play the role perfectly. Thursday morning, Elena's studio. I'd arranged for her to examine sketches I'd been working on, drawings containing details about her operation that only Maya could know. Dr. Hoffman's team was positioned outside, waiting for my signal. Elena examined the sketches with growing alarm. "Where did you learn to draw like this?" Her voice was carefully controlled, but her eyes were sharp with suspicion. "I've been having dreams," I said, using Sarah's hesitant tone. "Memories about art techniques I used to know." Elena set down the sketches and looked at me carefully. For a moment, I thought she might still buy the act. Then she smiled, nothing like the gentle expression I'd grown used to. "Hello, Maya." The game was over. "I wondered how long it would take," she continued, moving to a cabinet. "You were always too smart for your own good." She pulled out a small pistol and pointed it at my chest. The memory suppression was elegant, but temporary. I always knew I'd have to move to permanent measures eventually. She tilted her head, studying me like I was another art piece to be authenticated. "How much do you remember?" "Everything," I said, abandoning Sarah's voice entirely. "I remember who you really are, Isabella Varga. I remember your operation. I remember the Nazi art you're hiding. And I remember you're going to prison." Elena laughed, cold and sharp. "Prison? Maya, you still don't understand. I don't go to prison. People who threaten me disappear." She gestured around the studio with her free hand. "Did you think I kept you alive out of sentiment? Your expertise is valuable. Your authentication techniques, your research methods, your ability to spot fakes. I've been using all of it to improve my work." And now Maya knows too much and Sarah has outlived her usefulness. "Before you kill me," I said, backing slowly toward her work table, "don't you want to know what Maya discovered about the other Nazi paintings?" Elena hesitated, curiosity warring with caution. "Other paintings? The Caravaggio was just the beginning," I lied smoothly. "Maya found references to 6 other pieces, a complete treasure map worth hundreds of millions." It was complete fabrication, but Elena's ego wouldn't let her dismiss it. "You're lying. Maya documented everything, hidden in places you'd never think to look." I edged closer to the table where Elena kept her solvents. "But she also left instructions. If anything happened to her, the information goes to Interpol automatically." Elena's gun hand wavered slightly. She was hooked. Unless what? Unless someone with Maya's expertise helps decode the remaining pieces. Someone who understands both the technical analysis and the historical context. Elena was completely focused on my words now. which was why she didn't notice me grabbing the turpentine bottle. "But that someone would have to be alive," I said. "Picasso is home!" I shouted, throwing the turpentine directly at her face while diving for the floor. Elena screamed and staggered backward, her hands flying to her eyes. The gun went off, but the shot went wide. Within seconds, federal agents crashed through the door. Elena, half-blind and cursing in multiple languages, was taken into custody. As they led her away, she looked back at me with an expression that was almost impressed. "That was well played, Maya. Sarah would be proud." It took me a moment to realize what she meant. Sarah Chen hadn't been just a cover story. She'd been a person, too, even if she was artificially created. And in some strange way, she'd helped save Maya. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a cafe in Montreal drinking coffee black, no sugar, watching news coverage of Elena's trial. Isabella Varga has been charged with art fraud, kidnapping, conspiracy, and human trafficking. The investigation expanded to 6 countries and recovered over 300 stolen artworks. The other 3 victims Elena had targeted are recovering too. We support each other through the process of rebuilding deliberately fractured identities. I'm back in graduate school finishing Maya's thesis on Renaissance forgery detection. I have a small apartment near McGill University with terrible heating but amazing light. And yesterday I adopted a small black cat from the local shelter. His name is Picasso. Elena tried to erase Maya and replace her with Sarah, but she created something neither of them had been before. Someone who knows that identity can be stolen but never truly destroyed. Someone who understands that truth fights its way back to the surface, no matter how deeply it's buried. Someone who learned that the most powerful form of resistance is simply refusing to disappear. Every morning when I wake up, I choose to be Maya Delacroix. Not because that's who I was born as, but because that's who I choose to be. Identity isn't just memory or history or the stories other people tell about us. It's the choice we make every day about who we want to become. Elena stole 3 years of my life, but she couldn't steal my future. And every paper I sign, every painting I restore, every lecture I give, I sign it with my real name. Maya Delacroix. She thought she could steal a life and wear it like a costume. She forgot the most important thing about being human. We're not just our memories. We're the choices we make when everything else has been stripped away. I choose to be free. I choose to be real. I choose to be myself. The memory thief failed, and Maya Delacroix lives.